understanding of the chapter Kathmandu. Just before this, we had studied about understanding of the chapter, like overview of the chapter, and in what aspect this chapter was constructed. We all got to know that author was arriving from China to India. While he stayed in Nepal for a span of time, he observed two of the most religious places in Nepal, and that's how Kathmandu chapter was constructed. As I've already told you earlier, that this chapter is an extract from its novel called The Lake of the Heaven. Let's study further. When we talk about Pashupatinath temple, we see that worshippers have enthusiasm, energy, they have excitement, they have, I would say, eager attitude in order to reach the temple. They are pushing the crowd, they're trying to reach to the priest as the earliest. Fruit sellers are there, flute sellers are there, other shops are there. Even animals are standing in the middle of the road looking at the drivers questioningly whether I should stay aside or not. Near the temple, monkeys are jumping here and there. And that just beside of that temple, there's a river called Bagmati River. And I wish you all know there is a belief about that Bagmati river's beside. What's that?
One stone says when
Yes. This is the exact situation, the sound that is being created here, that's called febrile confusion. And this is exactly how the atmosphere of that temple seems like. You understand that?
Yes.
Exactly.
Positive vibes.
I would say filled with excitement. Now, just beside that river, there is a stone kept there. What's there? Stone is kept there. And there is a belief among people that one day there will be Bagmati river's flow will be so high that it will be able to move that stone, and as soon as this action takes place, the Lourdes will emerge from that area, and then she will have capability of destroying complete humanity altogether, which we call Kali. So this was the atmosphere of excitement, enthusiasm. So in each class there are different type of people. There are certain students who are eager in participating in different activities, and there are certain who don't care what's happening in the class, minding in their own business. Like the simplest one, सबसे सीधा साधा. Example? Sensible. Let's get to know about bottomless. Let's see. Bottomless surroundings is the same as the class surrounding remains when Devanand sir arrives. Complete quietness. Things are being sold there. Excitement is there as well. But there's just one thing. People are really calm. And let me tell you one thing. That all religious and religions have just one base and belief upon that is situated. For Hindus, it can be freedom of life. For Hindus, it can be freedom of life. For Buddhism, it's called enlightenment. What do we call it? Enlightenment. For Muslims, it's called truth. Just speaking truth all the time. Whereas Christians have also their own belief. If we talk about Buddhism, their belief is quietness, solitude, being quiet, knowing oneself, and most important one, enlightenment. Do you people understand what we call enlightenment? For example, if I tell you, you know what, I was standing just in front of a tree for a span of time and then I got enlightened. I had all the knowledge. Would you believe for one? Would you believe?
No.
I just sat beside a tree for a span of time and then I got all the knowledge all together, which is being taught here. The understanding that teacher teaches you. You get all of this combination just by sitting beside a tree. Let me tell you something. It actually happens. When you concentrate upon yourself so much that you start knowing yourself so deeply that you understand the fundamentals of life. It might seem boring to you, but trust me, once you understand this, you will have a radiance upon your face, glow, confidence, since you know yourself. 90% of students don't know themselves. That's why their confidence is poor. Once you stay just alone, think of yourself for a span of time. You will know yourself better. You will know your life better. And ultimately, you'll have a glorious confidence. And that's what Lord Buddha had done. What things are being sold there? Can you help us? Number 1, chocolates. Number 2, utensils. Number 3, jewelries and other utensils and all. These are being sold there. But do we hear any sound while that they are being sold? At one side, one religion is quite excited, energized, enthusiastic for their Lord. Whereas on the other side, Buddhism, they are quiet, cool, silent, calm. One thing again I would like to mention here, the author is not trying to compare any religion. He's just saying different ways of worshipping their Lord. Someone does this, someone does this, someone does this, and someone does this. But one thing is common, that they all have one thing is common, that they worship by showing gratitude. At the last, author talks about flute a lot. Have you observed a flute seller? I've just mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Beside the flute seller, there was a flute seller and he was playing flute. He doesn't care his flutes are being sold or not. What he cares about, he plays the flute, keeps there, takes another, plays, keeps, just like that. There's one thing that author mentions. This seller has been selling his flute ever since he started working. Means, if he's 66-year-old, he had started working at 20-year-old, and from that point of time, straight 30 to 40 years, he did just one thing. Standing beside the road and just playing that flute. People, he is amazed by this. For example, if I tell you that, you know what, more than 10 years you have spent while sitting on these benches, it might look normal to you, but when you grow up and then you look backwards, 20 years I studied, just sitting up on one place. Author mentions it, and then he comes to the part of flute where he says that there are 5 types of flutes which are really famous, from which some are called red knee, Hindustani classical bansuri, and there are many. And then he returns back to India, whereas he decides 2 options while returning from Nepal to India. First, taking airline, and second, selecting a bus and travel to Patna, and from which he would go further. Which one did he select, the first or second? Airlines.
Yes.
Correct answer. He selected an airline and he came back to India. And that's how this chapter ends. At the last, the conclusion remains that different religions have different ways of worshipping their Lord, but one thing is common. They have gratitude for their Lord and they worship in the best way they can. That's how this chapter ends. Thank you.